During the month of November, I decided to make a beat every single day. But I didn't do it with just my computer or a MIDI controller. I decided to step outside of my comfort zone and try something new. And so I went ahead and bought this. This is the KO2 by Teenage Engineering, and it has everything in it you really need to do to make a beat. And this controller, I'll have to say, is not the easiest to learn, but I feel like that's kind of by design because there's so many hidden functions inside this machine that once you know it, it kind of feels like it's a little bit more simple. But it's just not right there in front of your face. There's no sub menus. You've kind of got to learn as you go. And there's plenty of tutorials online that definitely helped me learn how to use this machine. But what I took away from it that I'm going to take back when I go into my DAW is even more important. So what did I learn from creating beats every single day with this machine? The first thing I really wanted to focus on when I was making music with the KO2 was drums. I feel like in lo-fi, we've kind of gone away from how important drums kind of are. Yeah, they're still very important, but we don't really have, I think, a groove necessarily built around the drums at times. Sometimes I feel like when I listen to lo-fi music, we're very focused on the ambience of the entire track, and the drums are very much there to kind of ground it as everything else is kind of moving, but the drums are kind of a little more steady. And sometimes, yeah, the drums are more offbeat, sometimes they're onbeat. But with the KO2, I wanted to make sure that the drums were the focus. So whenever I started a track, I always started with the drums. I would try and make a beat based on whatever I was kind of feeling or based on whatever I was using drum-wise. I had about 300 to 400 samples that were just a combination of kick, snare, and hi-hat. And I tried to pair those all together to where it sounded like this could be something that would be a foundation for a song. I would then go and I would find samples that were either there by default or other ones I've loaded in to explore what kind of song I wanted to use. And the KO definitely helped me a lot with trying to use different samples because in the past, I've historically just stayed away from samples that are one chord or a note or something like that and preferred to make all those sounds in my DAW from playing the keyboard or crafting the sound myself, which I enjoy doing. It's a fun process to explore. But with the KO, you kind of can't do that unless you're really plugging your KO into your computer or doing a lot of exports and stuff like that, and just wasn't what I was feeling. So I decided to use samples of instruments that have already been recorded and make beats with those. And I have to say, this was a really fun process. Being able to see what it would sound like if I pitched some of these samples up or down, or if I made them just be able to play as a note and going up the scale was a lot of fun and really changed my look on how I would use sounds. Because sometimes I think, oh, I'm just constrained to the keyboard. But with this, if you're starting with just the drums, you don't really know what chord or what note or what key you're playing some of these sounds in. So as you're playing them and trying to figure out what rhythm or what melody you're trying to make, it's kind of just whatever sounds good to you within these 12 notes. So it was a lot of exploration when it came to how do I want the bass to sound? How do I want this melody? How do I want to have a unique chord progression because I only have one sample? And that was a little bit of the downside too, because there were times where, oh, I want a major chord, I want a minor chord, and you can't change those when you're moving up. You're just pitching the sample up and up. So you got to find ways to where you can make a major chord or a minor chord work in several different ways, or use both the samples in unique ways by recording one and then pausing and then going back and recording the other one in the space that was left over. So definitely was a lesson in trying to figure out how you want to use melodies and chords and bass the entire time when using the KO. All these things together, trying to figure out how you want to do drums, melody, bass, any other instruments, any other sounds, really helped me figure out how to glue a beat together, because this really helped me focus on you don't have to have everything playing all the time. Every beat I made, I tried to stick to just using 4 bars. And so there were some instruments where I'm like, I'm just playing this little by little, like once every 4 beats, or sometimes just once every 2 bars, just to be able to say, hey, there's this little flavor, this little thing sprinkled in there. And if I was trying to turn some of these beats into full songs, I would sometimes fade certain sounds in and fade them back out so that it would seem like there's more of a transition. And the goal of me doing this whole thing was trying to put myself in a box and put some limitations on myself. And the KO definitely helped with that. Now, I feel like I've adapted to those limitations. And so now it's more so about exploring, well, what else can the KO do for me? And what else can I use it for on a larger scale now that I feel like I've mastered some of the limitations I first put on myself? But there's still plenty more that I learned just from using the KO. And one of those things was the effects. So the effects on the KO work a little bit differently in the DAW, and this really helped me kind of master how I would use effects, and my approach to using effects in the DAW has definitely changed from this experience. So if I wanted to apply an effect on the DAW, if I wanted to apply an effect on the KO, we have an effect button right here. I can push that. I can cycle through the effects that we have right here. And right now we have reverb, so if I hit play, I can add it in right here as we go. Distortion, delay, and it's kind of, it sounds like right there it's applying to all the effects or all the channels at once. So you kind of have to be a little bit sparing on how you use the effects, because there's a way you can apply it to each individual group, but for me mostly it was just applying to everything that was playing at the same time. And it vastly transformed the song to where I would probably just use some of these effects more as transitions, which I actually think is really cool. I think that's a cool element that they use sometimes in hip hop, is just by throwing some delay on here real quick and having this just be like an intro or something like that, or an outro or a transition. And so for me, that was something cool to take in and experience, and just think of it as songwriting in a different way. But what I really started to play around with was that you can temporarily apply effects to different aspects of the song. It's going to apply to the entire project, but these are effects that you wouldn't want to have on for the entire time anyway. And for me, as I'm trying to move more and more into doing some more hip hop focused lo-fi music, these were some effects I was like, I might want to use some of these in the future going forward. And you activate them in a different way than you do for the effects. For example, let's just turn the delay effect off. And now if you hold effect, these are different smaller effects that you can apply to the entire project. Like this is a low pass filter, this is a high pass filter, this is kind of like a stutter. These two, pitch and tune, can affect the like the overall sound, like pitching it up or down, or pitching it to where certain instruments you do or don't hear. So let me show you what I mean by that. Let's just play our beat here, and I'm going to cycle through some of these and show you what each one of these do. So you can see there's a lot of different things that you can do here when it comes to just using the effects. If it's effects that are going to be applied to the global track, the global aspect of the beat you're working on, or if it's going to be just temporary effects that you're going to be applying here or there. Some of these effects might sound really good for like a verse or a chorus, or they might just be something for a transition or something you just throw in really fast for some extra flavor. And it's so easy just to, hold effects and apply whatever that is to it, that it's like, man, I wish it was kind of a little bit easier to apply some of these things in your DAW, which there are shortcuts that I've learned that you can apply them pretty easily. But right now, just to be able to say, I've got a beat and I want to continue to craft it to where it has these effects is pretty cool. So this is an element of the KO2 that I actually really liked, and I'm going to try and see if maybe I'll import a beat that I've made from my DAW into this, and then be able to kind of play around with some of those effects and see what I do or don't like without having to feel like I'm kind of like, I don't want to say destroying, but ultimately doing a ton of changes in my DAW that I might not like because there might be a lot of undo steps I have to do. With this, it's just tap, tap, turn it on. Don't like it? Okay, let it go. You get a nice little preview without having to go and open a whole bunch of plugins and add a whole bunch of other effects to be able to get just this temporary effect that you have here. So that is definitely something that I liked about the KO2 when it came to effects, is you can temporarily apply them with very little effort without having to open a whole bunch of plugins, adjust a ton of settings. You can just see what you like in the moment, and if you don't like it, keep going. If you do, just remember it and it's right there. Another aspect of using the KO2 that I really liked was getting deeper into sampling. Again, with hip hop, sampling is a really big thing. And I wanted to try using samples from popular songs just to see what can I do with it. And that was a little bit of a harder task than I thought. And on one hand, I thought, I don't need to have samples that have drums in them. On the other hand, I was like, there's Daft Punk songs that definitely have drums in it, and they've just pitched it up to where you don't even notice it. So for this, I decided we can kind of do a little bit of both, but ultimately I was still trying to find songs that just don't have drums in certain aspects of it, so I can add my own drums on, and I don't have to worry about it. Now, I will say sampling is a little bit more difficult with the KO2 because you don't see the waveform. You kind of have to just time it perfectly from when you start recording, and then you can kind of fine tune it from there, but it's not the easiest. So you want to try and get it right as close as possible on the first try when you're doing your own sampling. But when it comes to making a beat with sampling, it's not as hard as you think. Once you have it in there, you can pitch it up, pitch it down, stretch it out. But here's a look at how I took one of the samples that I really liked. This is probably an unknown song. This is a song called Guns by Street Dogs, where I sampled a bass part that has a little bit of a siren in it. It's the very end of the song where there's no drums playing, and I made my own quick little beat with it. Check out how I made it here.
どこに行くの？どこに行くの？どこに行くの？
So that was a cool beat that I made. I really liked using that sample, and I've used a couple of other samples, practice sampling, definitely a lot more in the last week or two that I had the KO during November. Now, there's tons of things about sampling I'm still getting better at, still working on, and I'm going to be doing more beats where I'm going to be sampling different artists and making videos like that. Maybe once or twice a week I'll do that. Maybe I'll do a YouTube live with it. So if you like those things, definitely like, comment, and subscribe, because if you have a song you'd like me to sample and try and play with, love to hear it. Love to see how I can kind of tweak it, flip it, and mess around with it. So drop those in the description. But ultimately, overall, I really liked my experience with the KO2. So if I do this again, where I make 30 beats with another controller like this, or if I just use the KO2, what am I going to do differently next time? Next time, what I think I can do differently is try and watch more tutorials, which everyone's going to say that about creating a challenge for themselves or learning this on their own. But there weren't a ton of tutorials I saw that I was like, wow, I feel really prepared. And the ones I did see were definitely helpful, but I had to watch most of those, 5 or 6 times before I'm like, okay, the information is sticking. And that's on me. Because the other thing I would do is get this a little bit earlier. I got this the day before November started. So it was kind of tough for me to say, I know exactly what I'm doing when we're using this controller. I was watching tutorials before it arrived, but it just didn't always land the way I wanted to because I didn't have that practice in. So next time, if I do something with a brand new controller, I'm going to try and get it a week or two in advance, practice it, maybe make some quick demo beats to kind of get my feel for it. But I didn't really feel like I hit my stride with it until I was probably like a week in. And even then, I'm like, I'm not really taking advantage of everything I know this controller can do. So I would definitely give myself a little bit more time before I started to dive into doing a full month worth of beats with it. The other thing is making some of the videos to post every day is a little hard. And I fortunately am able to do most of it because I have a good setup for recording multiple things. But for a portion of the trip, I was in Japan and I didn't have a good mobile set for recording and posting stuff. So while I made beats every single day, there were some aspects of recording those beats that I just didn't get to because I was like, I don't know how to put this on my phone and use the audio and make the post and recording it. I'm also in Japan. I'm trying to explore. So I'm like, it's hard to kind of carve out 20 minutes to do it when I can kind of do it here in like 6 minutes. But either way, I still made some beats every day that I was there and I really enjoyed them and I had a great time in Japan too. And when I came back and I had my setup, I was able to go all out and make some good beats that I'm really proud of. And that's definitely when I got more into sampling as I was trying to make more of those beats from coming back from Japan. So that's also something I would do differently. Maybe not plan a vacation in the middle of trying to do a beat challenge like this, but it was very spur of the moment. I kind of decided the last week of October to just do it because I think the KO is really cool and it definitely worked out and I'm definitely going to keep using it. So if you're thinking about getting into KO, I'm going to make a couple more videos about what I like about it, how you can do different things on it. These are just some of the things that I really enjoyed when I was making beats with the KO, and I definitely think challenging yourself to use a new controller is something that's worth doing, especially if you're going to make beats every single day for a month. And mine was for 30 days. And some people might think, well, why don't you just do this during Beattober? I have to say, the fact I didn't do this during Beattober was really refreshing because I wasn't looking at what everyone else was making. I was just doing my own thing. And it didn't matter if someone liked it or didn't like it. I wasn't really fighting for attention. I was just, hey, this is a cool beat I made. I'm going to share it. And that was it. So doing your own beat challenge, do it like 6 months before Beattober. Do it in April or May. Because I think that will give you the ability to see what it's going to be like. There's no pressure. And when you have time to reflect on what those beats were like, then you can just say, cool, I can go all out in October. I already know what I'm going to do. And you don't have to, worry too much about it. You've already got your setup ready. You got a controller that you're going to use. Or if you want to try a different controller, you kind of know what to expect. So I would encourage you to not only get a KO and try it out, but also get a KO or any other controller and do your own challenge outside of Beattober, because I had a ton of fun doing this and I think you would enjoy it too. If you're an artist, definitely try this out. No pressure is a wonderful thing. And I feel like there's so much pressure we put on ourselves during Beattober to make a beat, make it sound good, make sure other people hear it, make sure they listen to it. Just make something you really like. And that's it. That's all you gotta do. But that's what I really liked about the KO2. I really like doing this beat challenge all by myself. If you've liked any of my beats, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. If you haven't heard any of those beats, check out a link in the description below to a playlist that has all the beats from this November challenge. And if you want to see more beats like this, or if you want to stay up to date with what I'm doing, or check out more lo-fi music that I'll be releasing in the coming year, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, peace.